Our quarterback is better than yours. Or is it?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Today's episode brought to you by my favorite Bird Dogs. Today's episode, it is a special one. We got Rajiv and Justin coming on, birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. Enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free white tech hat with any purchase. You will not want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. All right, let's get Justin in. Let's get Rajiv in. And gentlemen, you guys are muted. Let me unmute you. We had a fun topic going on today. We're going to break down Tanner Mordecai compared to every probable starting quarterback that we're going to play this year. Who knows in week 7 or 8 what's going on, but we're just going to say, who would you rather take, Tanner Mordecai or this guy? Tanner Mordecai or this guy? And we are doing it. We talked about before the show. Rajiv had a great way of framing this. I mentioned kind of in a vacuum, not which player is necessarily going to have the better year when you factor in the offensive coordinator, the weapons around them, the efficiency because of the talent they have, but just which quarterback do you like more? Would you trade any of these quarterbacks for Tanner Mordecai this year? Gentlemen, you ready? All right. I have to do a deep dive and do some research. Let's start here. We're just going to go week 1 all the way through. Week 1, Wisconsin plays. Obviously, we know Buffalo. We'll go round table. Rajiv, I'll start with you on this one. Justin, you get the next one. I'll get the one after that. Rajiv, why don't you kick it off with Buffalo? Tell me what you're going to go.
Yeah, I'm going Tanner Mordecai. What is interesting, though, is that Buffalo is one of the few teams on our schedule that actually has a quarterback that played for their team last year that's playing for their team again this year. It's very few and far between. I think it's just the first 2 games. So that is interesting. And, yeah, he started last year, over 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 61 PFF passing grade. But, yeah, he's an experienced guy. He plays in the MAC. He's not a Big Ten quarterback. I'm definitely taking Tanner Mordecai over him. But he is one of those guys that kind of has that stat line that's close.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, that's kind of the area where this gets interesting is there's not going to be a lot of guys that can actually, from a stat line, stack up with Mordecai. I just think he's accomplished more than pretty much anybody in the early schedule. But, yeah, against Buffalo for sure, I would take Mordecai just because he's done more. You know, he's been more productive. He's had more big games. He's played well in bigger games. So I have to take him in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's an obvious clean sweep. By the way, I should mention Cole Snyder is the guy at Buffalo. Was at Rutgers. He's a 6-year guy. He's a real quarterback. Like, to Rajiv's point, this is a real quarterback, right? Like, he over 3,000 yards last year. He's been in the game a long time, almost 500 career attempts. So this is not somebody who's not going to be able to complete an open pass if you give him a 7-yard slant route. But, yeah, we're obviously taking Tanner Mordecai here.
I mean, if Cole Snyder was playing on some of the other teams that we were playing against, then it would be a little bit more of a different situation. But Buffalo, yeah.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go at Wazoo, week 2, Washington State. Justin, why don't you take this one? Cameron Ward, the Washington State quarterback.
Yeah, this one, we talked about this a little bit offline, and a lot of it had to do with me looking at it through the lens of how he played against us last year. He didn't have a great game against Wisconsin, and a lot of that was the fact that we were probably one of the better defenses that he saw last year. So it wasn't a fair comparison for me to kind of look at him from that standpoint. This is really close. I don't know what I expect from him. I'd probably take Ward simply because he has more games against high level of competition than what we've seen with Mordecai. So he's a little bit more of a known quantity against this level than what we've seen, but it's a lot closer than I think, most would probably say looking at this. Statistically, you could say it's Mordecai if you wanted to go that route.
But you are taking Ward.
Yes, I'm taking Ward.
Yeah, make that 2 for 2. I'm also taking Cameron Ward. I actually really like Cameron Ward. So when you dig into him more, it's a really toolsy player. He hasn't played a lot of college football. Right? He had a COVID season in his high school year. They played like a wing tee, so he never really threw the ball. So he's been a raw prospect. And even at that level, he had a really good season last year at Washington State. Completed, I think it was 65% of his passes, 3,200 yards. Added 5 rushing touchdowns, really live arm. The unique thing about him is he throws really well on the move. rolls out left, right, great touch, hard to kind of contain in that pocket. I think he's going to be a headache for the Badgers defense. I'm going Cam Ward here. I think he's proven it at a higher level. I think he's more athletic than Tanner Mordecai. I definitely think he has a higher ceiling. Mordecai is probably the more accurate passer. But again, Cam Ward completed 65% of his passes, so I'm not even sure if that's true. To me, this one's not even that close. I think Cam Ward, to me, is the choice here, and it's pretty easy.
I don't think it's that easy. I kind of go back and forth on this a little bit. Yeah, okay, he had 3,200 yards, good season, very athletic. That's really the one key point about Cam Ward is that he can move around the field, and he does move the ball. It's something I always look at quarterbacks is how well they can move to create the pass. Not just scramble out and roll out. It's how can they actually create passing lanes with the way they move. He does that well. That being said, his pro football focus grade was like 59. It's nothing fantastic. He's not as accurate as Mordecai. I'm sticking with Mordecai on this one. I'm sticking with Mordecai, and you kind of almost sold me, but look, he's really good. He's going to be a handful. This is a game that we've all identified as one of our potential slip-ups early in the season. Not going to be easy, but I'm taking the guy that has thrown 7,000 yards, 70 plus touchdown passes in the last couple of years. Pro football, his PFF grade is 80. Tanner Mordecai's, and yeah, I think he is a better overall quarterback. So when I look at this and I say, okay, if you can give me Cam Ward or Tanner Mordecai on the Badgers, I'm still taking Mordecai, and I still think he's a better quarterback than Cam Ward. It is close. This is probably the closest of all of them, but I'm sticking with Believe. I'm sticking with our
I was just going to say, this is a great time to play.
A national title?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going on Final Four runs? Why not? It's Believe with Rajiv on today's Locked On Badgers.
I have been sort of criticized lately for not being as Believe as Justin is. Justin has taken over the optimism train, so I've got to take that back a little bit. And yes, this is close. This is really close. And Cam Ward's a great quarterback. I'm not taking anything away from him, but our guy's still better.
To John Berger, who threw up a question there in the chat. No, if you're looking at them through the lens of how they are going to be used this year, I think Mordecai actually, for what we want him for, might be a better fit for the Badger offense. I think I would take Mordecai through that lens. If we're looking at them as a player and what they have offer from some of the strengths, I think that you could make the argument that Ward is a little bit more versatile than what Mordecai provides. Now, in that matchup, Mordecai's not going to have to worry about Hunter Wooler chasing him around either. He's probably spying him, which is going to make a big difference in that game.
For sure. But again, we're not trying to look into what they're going to have to face or what weapons they have. Like this is another question here, our comment here from Greg Lincecum. And Greg, thanks for the comment. I think Tanner has more weapons than Ward. 100% probably true, right? But again, we're just trying to look at the quarterback himself and who you would rather take. It's interesting that Rajiv and I are disagreeing on this one. I love it, man. That's great stuff. And your point is correct. Like what Mordecai has done is undeniable. I would say Ward has proven that at a higher level, but he also has warts, right? He doesn't have the same touchdown interception ratio that Mordecai has. So
he also had the great Nakia Watson behind him. Let's not forget about that.
The great Nakia Watson. All right, let's move on from that. Let's go into the next one, Georgia Southern. I'll just kick this one off. I mean, again, we're all going to – obviously, I'm taking Mordecai. Georgia Southern, it sounds like it's going to be Davis Brin or Bo Allen, not the defensive tackle.
That would make it better if it was.
Bo Allen would be a power player at quarterback. I think it's going to be Davis Brin, Tulane transfer, 60% completion rate last year, 17 touchdowns, 8 picks. It doesn't really matter. Like Georgia Southern is going to be at a quarterback disadvantage against Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and we're going to go through these games and Mordecai's going to have a pretty big advantage in quite a few of them. He's such a proven quantity in terms of what he's actually done from a production standpoint. There's not a lot of guys that are going to be able to stack up with him from that regard. And this is one of those situations where I look at it. You're looking at a guy at a low level who Mordecai absolutely torched, a lower level, a lower conference level. And he's proven it. And it's not the same playing field between those two guys.
That's really it. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Justin. Like what Mordecai did at this sort of level of college football, just basically owning it, could have wrote a ticket to any school in the Power Five, and I think that really does it in. I kind of skipped this one in my research. I just like listen. Let's go on to Hudson Card.
We've already spent more time there than we need to. All right, we're going to take a quick break for our friends of the show. Come back. We're going to get into the Big Ten calendar. Where else do we think Tanner Mordecai might have an advantage or not? We're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break from our friends of the show, Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, the company allowing me to dress like a normal human adult while remaining comfortable. Like, y'all have no idea how difficult it is for me to like dress like a high functioning adult. I work from home. When I spent the first 9 years of my adult life in the Navy, where literally they tell you what to wear every day. You wear a uniform. So I got out and it was a disaster. I still don't know how to tie a tie. I have a zipper tie. Lord help me if I ever need to break that out. That's what Bird Dogs is here for. Bird Dogs is here to help me dress like a normal functioning adult. Incredibly comfortable pants, khakis. They're awesome, but they look great. And you get, now if you go through Bird Dogs, we have a special offer for you. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free white tech hat, which you may notice right here. They sent me a sample. It's incredibly comfortable. Free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or promo code LockedOnCollege for a free white tech hat. You'll never want to take your Bird Dogs off. I promise you. Let's get the boys back on here and continue this quarterback preview show. Kind of.
Can you wear a tie with shorts?
I could wear my.
Are you the guitarist from AC/DC?
I could wear my zipper tie with anything. Listen, I remember still, like, when I was coaching. I spent a year coaching at Connecticut College, right? And I remember vividly my first game on the sideline. This young lady was next to me and she said, "Coach, last year we were considered one of the better dressed coaching staffs in the conference." I'm just saying. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. I think my tie was like falling off. It was just a disaster. All right, let's jump into this. Let's go. The next one up, we have Purdue. I think Rajiv, you're up on this one. Let's get going.
Yeah. Hudson Card backed up. You were in Texas last year, 928 yards, 6 TDs, 67.8 PFF grade. Look, this guy's he's an athlete, and he can move. He can move really quickly. He's got a great arm, really, really powerful. I think he's going to do great things at Purdue. I really think that Purdue is. Look, I know that they lost their head coach. I know that they've got a whole new system coming in, but they do know how to bring quarterbacks to that school. That school historically has had very good quarterbacks. So this one, a little bit close for me. I'm still taking Mordecai because, frankly, he's just proven it. Like as I said kind of at the beginning, so many of these guys on this list just haven't done it, and a lot of new faces. Now Mordecai is new to us, but he's really proven it. So still taking Mordecai over Hudson Card, but I expect really good things out of Card. And I have said on the show, this is a game that I'm very, very worried about at night in West Lafayette. That is not going to be easy.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm taking Mordecai too. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think that he's just more experienced between the two of them. I think if at the end of the season, because of the fact that one's playing for Purdue and one's playing for Wisconsin, statistically, we may look at it and be like, wow, Mordecai had a much better season. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to be as much the case when you actually watch the gameplay and see how Card plays. Because I think that there's a lot of upside there that he may have to fight through some talent deficiencies that Purdue has in comparison to what Wisconsin's going to have this year. And I think that might be the difference truly between them from a statistical standpoint. Like, I think it'll be pretty close in terms of how we look at them in terms of caliber quarterback that they are. But I would go with Mordecai.
Clean sweep there. Mordecai as well. Although we're entering into a category here where there are a bunch of high upside guys that we don't know for sure who they are. But at the end of the year, and Hudson Card is in this, at the end of the year, if someone told me, man, Hudson Card kind of exploded or just had a really good year, it wouldn't shock me. So there's a few players like that coming up on the list.
I think this is the guy that I look at that has really the highest upside. I think I really like Hudson Card. And frankly, it was someone that I was thinking like, oh, could Wisconsin potentially get Hudson Card? I really liked him. I liked his film. I really think he's a good quarterback. He is one of the highest upside guys for me in this list.
By the way, Graham Harrell, offensive coordinator, certainly a guy who knows about passing games as well.
That's the one that scares me a little bit. I'm a little concerned about he seems like a dude as an offensive coordinator. So
that's an interesting hire for Purdue. All right, let's go on. Justin, you're up here with Rutgers, Gavin Wimsatt.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Mordecai.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's particularly close. I don't know what Rutgers is going to be this year, but I think that I feel fairly confident when you see these two going against each other. And a lot of it's going to be Wisconsin's defense in the circumstances, but I think it's going to be pretty obvious who the better quarterback is in that game.
Yeah, this one's easy. I mean, I wasn't particularly swayed by the 44% completion percentage last year, nor was I pulled to his side with the 5 to 7 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah,
give me Tanner Mordecai throwing with his weak hand over Gavin Wimsatt.
This guy's PFF grade was under 50. I mean, we're good. We're good on this one.
All right, let's move on. That was a pretty easy one. Let's go to Iowa. Cade McNamara coming over from Michigan. Good, like McNamara's. We talked about the Buffalo quarterback, Cade. McNamara's a real quarterback. Solid quarterback, good accuracy, good arm, not a great arm. I like Mordecai more. I think Mordecai's got more of an arm, and I think he's a little more mobile. But McNamara's fine. I don't think this is a landslide for Tanner Mordecai. But if I had to choose, I'm not spending that much time debating it either. If that makes sense, I think Mordecai to me is a relatively easy pick here.
It's really hard to look at this one in a vacuum because Iowa's anemic, Coach Ferentz's son offense. I mean, that's pretty rough. But that being said, he is an upgrade for them, no doubt about that. I mean, he obviously had plenty of playing time in Michigan. His highest season there, he had 2,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, and a grade of 76.3. So, yeah, he's a good quarterback. Similar to what we talked about with Cole Snyder and Cam Ward, real quarterback, someone that we actually had to think about, still taking Mordecai. But, again, this one's a little close too. I mean, if you told me that Cade McNamara was coming to Wisconsin, and before we ever talked about, Tanner Mordecai, I'd be okay with that. I mean, he is a guy that can play. Still like Mordecai's production better. Still think he'll be the better quarterback.
Yeah, I'm definitely going with Mordecai here. And I think the biggest thing to me between the two of them in the comparison is, and I think McNamara is a solid quarterback, but I think that the difference is that Mordecai has the potential to elevate your team and put him on his back and carry him. And I don't think McNamara is really capable of that. I think he's a guy who's capable of being a distributor and doing the job you want him to with the talent that you assemble around him. But I don't see him as a guy who's really capable of kind of, taking the sum and making it the sum of the parts more than what the individual parts are.
John Kottmeyer has Tanner over McNamara. He's pretty good too. There was an interesting comment here, really quick, to pause on McNamara because I think he's one of the more interesting names on this list. And I'm curious what you guys think of this. I lost the comment. I apologize, but it basically said I'd be tempted with McNamara because he's proven it in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. He has done it in the Big Ten, and that's one of the question marks with Mordecai, right? I mean, we haven't seen him do it against outside of that SMU Conference USA situation. So this is a step up for him. McNamara has done it against good teams. Good point, but I still think if you just look at both of their resumes in a vacuum, you're still taking Mordecai. It is close. It's not, it's up there with the guys like Cam Ward and Hudson Card and these other guys.
To be fair in that regard too, he's not playing at Michigan anymore. He's definitely the weapons that he have taken a significant step down on the offensive side. It's not like he has 2 stud tailbacks anymore. He doesn't have a bunch of wide receiver talent. He's going to have to make some plays in order to be a competent quarterback there that he's maybe not as comfortable as he was when he was at Michigan.
And to Justin's point, Zach Bartz, McNamara still has to overcome the offensive kryptonite known as Brian.
That's right. I mean, this is the one thing. You can't ever factor this in. This is we were pretty sad about our own anemic offense last year. We were far and away better than the Iowa system. My God. And talk about the evolution that we've just gone through. They refuse to go through an evolution.
That's a great comment, Zach.
I remember there was a Packers Monday Night Football game against the Redskins where Dennis Miller was doing the commentating and calling the Redskins offense the prevent offense. That's effectively what Iowa's running.
Yeah, it's ugly. All right, let's pop another one. I think Rajiv, you're up. I think we're up to Illinois, correct?
Illinois, yes. So Luke Altmaier is going to be the starter. Didn't really, play much last year. Did he play at all last year? I think, but yeah,
a couple snaps. I don't think he played much.
Taking Mordecai here, taking pretty much our entire quarterback room. I think with this, this is not. He has some upside here, but really not anything that's going to hold the candle to what we have in Mordecai. Not even close.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this one is that people really got hung up on the fact that he was coming from Ole Miss. So it was like, oh, well, Lane Kiffin had him, so he must be really good. And it's like, well, yeah, but he's leaving there and he hadn't done anything there. So why do we consider him to be exceptional? I mean, by that logic, we would say Braden Locke coming in is going to be an absolute stud to start the year. And I don't think any of us are looking at him to be that in year one. We looked at him. If he had to play this year, hopefully he plays competent and plays within himself. That's really all we're looking for. That's what Illinois should be expecting. We expect more than that from Mordecai.
Yeah, listen, the floor on Mordecai is so much higher than any of these four-star quarterbacks that haven't proven anything. I think that's
it's not even close. Like they could be a train wreck.
Yeah, Altmaier's a former not a high 4-star, by the way, Altmaier, but a former 4-star guy. But we expect we're in the range of 3,000-ish plus or minus a couple hundred yards from Mordecai. If a 4-star came in and did that his first year, it would be an incredible season. And that's what we're expecting kind of as a floor from Mordecai. So yeah, it's not close for me. It's Mordecai here as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break for our friends of the show. Come back, and we're going to get into a couple juicy ones. We got Ohio State coming up. Are we taking Mordecai or whomever the Buckeyes start? Let's get into that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. A quick second to say thank you to everybody tuning in. You guys and gals are amazing and incredible, and thank you so much for helping make this really one of the best. Locked On Badgers is like its own little club, and I think that's what makes it so cool. So thank you so much for that. All right, let's get Rajiv and Justin back in. I think, Justin, you're kicking this one off. It's your turn, right? And you get one of the best ones to start off with. Ohio State, where are you going?
So Devin Brown or Kyle McCord. This is kind of similar to the situation we just discussed. And I honestly, I want to frame this through the lens of who I would take if the game is 2 minutes left and I need a quarterback to go down the field and make a play for me to win a game. For me, it's Mordecai. And that's because he's just more experienced. Like the guys from Ohio State may have a higher ceiling athletically and with physical tools, but they're inexperienced. Neither of them has started or had high pressure situations in a game. And Mordecai's been through some of that. And at this point, I think that I want the seasoned guy who I kind of have an idea how he's going to react to that situation. And we know young quarterbacks make mistakes in those situations. They try to make too much happen, and a lot of times they can throw up. That's one of the perks of being an Ohio State quarterback, by the way, is you don't get in that situation quite as much as some of the other guys.
That is true. Comment on Clink, great friend of the show, says Ohio State quarterback, no doubt. I put a poll out on Twitter before we can continue this and just said, would you rather have Mordecai or whomever starts at quarterback for Ohio State? Now, considering most of my followers are Wisconsin fans and a bunch of homers, it was 70% Mordecai. This one is from Seth Berger. He said, hate saying it, but Ohio State will likely figure it out. They have a very quarterback-friendly offense. This is from Kyle Kramer. He said, Devin Brown, then Mordecai, then McCord. So he's higher on Brown. I'm taking the Ohio State quarterback. And I don't even know who it is. Like whether it's Devin Brown, Kyle McCord, both of whom are top.
If this isn't a vacuum, though, Ryan, we're talking in a vacuum, not.
I'm taking the Ohio State quarterback, both of whom are top 10 quarterback recruits in the country. Okay. And here's the thing with Ohio State. Like they have a good to great quarterback every single year. And at some point, I just believe they're going to keep doing it. It's a production line. It's assembly line. It's like Christopher Nolan movies. He could be coming out with a new one, and I just know it's probably going to be really good.
Okay. But the point is if we're doing this in a vacuum, then you're saying that effectively he's still better than Mordecai if we threw him in the Wisconsin offense.
Yeah, he's
and you're saying that that's the case?
He's a top 10
quarterback. But we see those guys flame out every year, though.
Yeah, not top 10 quarterbacks as much, right? He is one of the borderline 5-star quarterbacks with better physical tools than Mordecai. And I've just seen it too much from Ohio State. I'm going to take the Ohio State guy.
Let me ask you this, Ryan. I'm probably going to go with you, but I'm curious about your opinion on this. So let's say that in the offseason, Ohio State got Tanner Mordecai as their quarterback, and we got Kyle McCord. Who are you taking then? Are you still taking Kyle McCord?
Really quick.
Don't you reverse logic on him.
Really quick looking at it. Really quick, I'm just imagining the live reaction show to us landing a Kyle McCord and the numbers that would do. I'm taking Tanner Mordecai. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than I just trust that Ohio State every single year. And yes, I do realize the hypocrisy of my stance there with our criteria, but they're just going to have a better quarterback than us every year until we prove it. It's just kind of where I'm at.
But that's kind of.
I asked myself that question because I think it is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. I'm also taking Kyle McCord because he plays for Ohio State, and it's really hard to separate that. As much as we're going to talk about the vacuum, it is really hard to talk about it when you're playing that team that is literally just thumped us year in and year out.
And that is exactly where.
When you look at it from the way that I just posed that question, I think it is, Tanner Mordecai is a really good quarterback, but that's why sometimes you really can't look at this in that vacuum. You have to kind of understand, like, at the end of the day, we are playing these quarterbacks on those teams. So looking at it a little bit with that Ohio State lens, it's awfully hard to pick any quarterback that doesn't play for Ohio State when you're facing another quarterback in the Big Ten. So yeah, I'm still going to take McCord, but it is really close. And if you looked at it in the way that I posed that question, I would take Mordecai too if he played for Ohio State. So there is that piece.
Well, and that's exactly kind of how I was looking at it from that scenario. Is like, if we're looking at this from, if we chucked them both into the same situation, who we thought that felt more comfortable with, like if we're putting Wisconsin against or Mordecai against either of the two Ohio State quarterbacks in this room right now, I think Mordecai is our starter day one. I just think that he would end up winning it if they were all in the quarterback room.
I don't know.
Now that's not the same. They do. But you better feel confident that the floor that they're going to provide you is not going to bite you before that ceiling starts hitting, which is kind of where.
Oh, I lost my comments. I'm sorry. Matthew Anderson said, I give OSU the benefit of the doubt. That said, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Tanner ends up being the better quarterback at season's end. Bo Dragon, of course, comes in and says Ohio State's 4th-string quarterback would be Wisconsin's number 1. Let's not kid ourselves. David Piquiente says thoughts on up-and-coming quarterback Cole LaCrue. I really like him. I really like LaCrue. I think gets overlooked a little bit. Preston Brosner says if the game was today, Mordecai, but otherwise I'll take the Ohio State quarterbacks. See, that's an interesting take because the Ohio State quarterbacks get some time to teethe, right? If it was week 1, it's a little different. It's a good point by Preston. All right,
we do get them the week after Penn State, though, which is a nice luxury to have at least.
Yeah, but it'll give those quarterbacks a good big game experience too, right?
That's valid, provided it goes well for them.
Maybe they'll crash, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's finish this off because the last ones aren't. I think we got through some of the most exciting ones, but I am interested in one more coming up that I really want your take on. Indiana, I think that is mine. Tavon Jackson. Listen, he's another that you file into that former 4-stars recruit, big kid, former Tennessee quarterback, redshirt freshman. There's no way I'm not taking Mordecai over him for this year, though.
Yeah, not even close. It's an automatic. Just chalk it up, Mordecai.
Agreed. All right, let's move into Northwestern. Rajiv, Ben Bryant.
Ben Bryant, right? Cincinnati transfer. I mean, this is one that you kind of look at and you think, okay, well, he's very good. He's very talented. Got a great arm. Still taking Mordecai just because he's been the more productive guy. Like, I'm honestly. I mean, when you look at the entire landscape of college football, it'd be hard-pressed to find a solid list of quarterbacks you're taking over Mordecai. That's what's interesting about this discussion because he's so much better than on paper than so many other people. Ben Bryant is another one that I put in that really close kind of Card and Ward area because I do think he's going to be productive there. And if you looked at it in a vacuum, if you told me Ben Bryant was coming to Wisconsin before we ever got Mordecai, I would have been okay with it. But I'm still taking Mordecai, but it is close, very, very close.
Yeah, I would take Mordecai in this, and I have this where we talk about not being able to separate from the ecosystem. I really struggle to separate with Northwestern.
That's a rough ecosystem.
Look at it, be like, man, Ben Bryant's in for a rough year this year.
Yeah, this is though. I'll just say this, and it's a quick one because I'm taking Mordecai too. It's not that hard of a decision for me, but this is another one that I file under real quarterback. Like Ben Bryant's a real quarterback, and he will make you pay if you give him open throws, but not very athletic. I'm not that worried about Ben Bryant. Give me Mordecai. Let's move on. Justin, I think you're up. You got Nebraska.
Yeah, this one for me, from an actual quarterback standpoint, is Mordecai, and I don't think it's really close. I think he's the much better passer. I think he's more proven. Sims does some nice things with his legs, but he's not a guy that I feel really puts a defense under too much pressure with his ability to throw the ball. So I think I'd much rather have Mordecai and his level of athleticism than with the arm that he has versus a guy who is mostly running.
Yeah, I expected this to be closer, and then I went back and watched Sims. I really don't like the way he throws the ball at all. It's funny. He reminds me of former Nebraska quarterbacks, multiple.
Tommy Frazier.
I mean, like Taylor Martinez, like athletic. He's going to make some plays. He just doesn't throw the ball well enough. I think this is Mordecai easy. I think Sims is getting a little too much preseason hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, athleticism will always get you the attention, and that's what it's gotten him. But how you throw the ball is everything. And especially when you, against the quarterbacks that we have in this conference, the defenses that we have in this conference, I think Sims is in for a bit of a rude awakening. As I've said, I think Nebraska's not going to be good. Again, shocker. And I think he's going to just be one more in line of another quarterback that, he's not an elite passer. And if you want to win this conference and you want to be really successful, you need to be an elite passer, and he just doesn't have it. Mordecai is very close to basically being an elite passer.
Matthew Anderson says, Sims is athletic. I don't see him leading a fourth quarter comeback with time running down through the air. 100% agree, Matthew. Commandant Klink says, if both quarterbacks are at Ohio State and you tell me you are picking Mordecai over a top 10 recruit, we would be drooling if we got a quarterback that highly rated. If both were at Wisconsin, let's be real who we pick. Commandant, I mean, that's a good point. That's a recruiting pedigree that we don't touch very often at the quarterback spot.
But if Mordecai was at Ohio State, like, it's just, I mean, yes, I understand McCord's a top 10 recruit too, but boy, you would be looking at the numbers that he put up at SMU and then salivating over what he can do at Ohio State, right?
Yeah, we have Nick Evers sitting in that room who's not seeing anything right now. And that's where you kind of start looking at the pedigree of quarterbacks. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you have a guy that's proven and actually experienced, there's a difference between potential and actual, like, expected results. And that's kind of where the line is here. You have to, like, are you willing to risk it for what might be a high upside if a guy may also flame out and you have to end up replacing him after 3 games? And I just think that I want that certainty with Mordecai. And that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I think Ohio State tends to get the best of both worlds, though. They get the certainty of almost an elite talent, and it's a tough one. All right, let's get to finish off this list here, and then we'll take some comments. Minnesota, Ethan Kaliakmanis. Thank you, Ethan K. That's where I might go with this. I don't think this is particularly close either. I think. The sad part is, and this is still embarrassing, he went 19 of 29 for us against us last year for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And the rest of the year, he was the worst quarterback in Power 5 football, basically. I mean, I think he's kind of trash. I would take Mordecai again 10 times out of 10, and I'm not taking more than 2 seconds to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Not even close. Plays for Minnesota, so he's at the bottom of the barrel in anything that I'm going to ever talk about. So, yeah, it's good luck, Kaliakmanis. You're not going to be very good this year.
Yeah, I mean, he may take a step up and become better than what he was. I just don't think that his ceiling is remotely as high as what we're going to see this year from Mordecai.
Yeah, I don't think it's that close.
Does doing what we just did, like, make you guys think differently about I mean, we've talked about kind of our predictions and everything, but man, you look down this list and you're like, boy, there's a lot of quarterbacks who don't have experience with their team, who are making transfers, who have a high upside, but they're not proven like Mordecai is. It really kind of makes you look at the schedule and think, boy, it's an easy schedule, and we really have the potential of being super, super incredible this year. And when you look at this list and you start doing a deep dive into the other teams we're playing, it even gives me more belief that we have the ability to do something special, because this is not an impressive list that we're looking at here. I mean, there are a couple of big names here, but we're not looking at some of the lists that we've had in the past.
True.
Bo Dragon, you're looking at this from the wrong context. He said Minnesota is tough.
Read the comment first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And that's I was just about to read it. Minnesota is tough and manhandled the Badgers the last 2 years. These are tough games. But we're not looking at the overall team of Minnesota. We're looking strictly at the quarterback. And that's where it differs. If we're looking at that particular position and how those two stack up, I'm taking Mordecai 10 out of 10. Do I think that means that Minnesota is going to be an easy game? No, I don't think it's going to be. I think we beat them. And this year, I think we come and get them and put them in their place. But it doesn't mean they're going to roll over on us.
I think it's actually going to be kind of an easy.
We're going to roll over them.
Yeah, we're going to destroy them.
All right.
I actually do think that. Now, easy is relative, right? It's not going to be Georgia Southern easy, but I think it's going to be a 20-point win.
I think that Minnesota's loss of Ibrahim is going to be very telling, and they're just not going to be. They're not going to be as good this year. They're not even going to be close. And I think it was maybe our last show or some other show recently. We talked about 30 points, 40 points in that game. Yeah, we're going to beat them handily. That axe is no problem.
Let's bang out a couple comments quickly. Looking at you, Justin. Looking at you. All right. John Berger says, I bet on Tanner, Mordecai, and Mertz to win the Heisman. Why not? I could think of a bunch of reasons why not.
Bet on Braylon Allen.
Let's see. This one here. This one I wanted. Guys, let's go around the horn on this. Mr. Simi says, hey, Rajiv, if PJ wasn't Minnie's head coach, would you hate them less? Minnesota's head coach.
So before he came to Minnesota, I think that he had this like young shtick. He was like, he was motivated. He had this sort of aura about him of changing culture, which frankly he did. He went to Minnesota and changed that culture. So I will say, yes, I would hate him less if he was not in Minnesota. That is true, because Minnesota just drives everything down. That being said, I didn't really know him that well. I didn't really follow him that well until he went to Minnesota. So from the surface, I was impressed with him. I thought, yeah, there's a good guy. He's taken a small program and made him decent. And now if he goes to Minnesota, it'll be better. But as I've gotten to see more of him and everything that came out recently, now you just hate him even more than before.
I think you have this reversed. I think they're asking if you hate Minnesota less if PJ Fleck wasn't the coach.
Oh, I hate Minnesota less. Oh, see, I did read that wrong. I will never hate Minnesota less.
Yeah.
See, I actually respected them when Jerry Kill was the coach. Like, I respected him as the type of coach that he was. Did I fear them? No, I didn't fear them. I mean, I felt like we were the better team every time we played them when Jerry Kill was the coach. But I looked at him and I was like, all right, this guy maximizes what he's getting out of that program. And I respected what he did a lot more than I do PJ Fleck. He's just a better human being.
I mean, I hate Minnesota no matter what, so it doesn't matter to me. Like, it wouldn't matter who the coach is there. I
agree. And
I'm not going to ever like him.
I did read that question wrong. And I would probably... I was still going to hate them because they're Minnesota. But, I think you're right, Justin. Before, when Kill was there, it wasn't as horrible. I mean, PJ he's just kind of a slimy guy. I don't really want to be part of that.
Let's go here. Buy or sell. This is from Forrest Aguirre. Forrest, thank you for the comment, my friend. Buy or sell Locke using some experience he might get in blowouts or late game situations this year as a springboard for next year. And I've been buying this since the spring, so I'm going to continue buying this.
Yeah, he looks fantastic in the spring game and everything that people have said coming out of practice that have been there. He's really looking good. Yeah, like I think when we talked about our quarterback grades on our quarterback show a few weeks ago, we talked about the future, and Braden Locke is a guy that we have right now that's going to have several years of starting. And I think that I really hope he gets in there, and I'm excited to see him play because I think he has real potential. And it really just kind of sets us up where we can look past this 1 year of Mordecai and know that we've got a very capable guy behind him.
This is one of the underlying storylines of this season, which I actually see that one of the biggest differences between this coaching staff and the previous one. I have, without a doubt, no doubt that Phil Longo, when we're well ahead, is going to put Braden Locke in the game to get him some reps and get him some throws. It's not going to be, you're going to hand the ball off 10 times to end this game and drain clock. We're going to run our offense. We may not take kill shots, but we're going to put you out there and we're going to play offense the way we want to play. And yeah, I think 100% we are going to see him this year. And I think it may be fairly often. If the schedule is as light as we think it is, he may have 5-6 games that he gets in there where he gets an opportunity to run a few series.
5 or 6, that's quite a bit. I don't know about that.
Justin has become so bullish on this team that
it's not the team, it's the schedule. Like, I really am. I don't have a lot of respect for the schedule. There's 4 games I think that I'm really worried about.
If we lose a game or two, we're gonna have to do a wellness check on Justin and just make sure everything's okay.
That may be accurate.
All right, let's wrap it up there. We can keep going forever, but guess what? We're gonna be back again tomorrow. Really. Oh, by the way, for all the everydayers, we get a fun basketball interview coming up. We also have an interview with a bit of a contrarian who is maybe Wisconsin. We're a little too high on ourselves. That's going to be a good one. A lot of good content coming up. Brian Smith coming up again this week to talk recruiting. So stay tuned here on Wisconsin. He is Rajiv. That guy's Justin. I am Ryan. Thank you so much. And let's try to have a non-awkward outro.